The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 155 with Anthony Renna from the Strength Coach Podcast.
The light went off for me. I said, I just saw the opportunity. I said, Mike, listen, I said, I know you don't know what a podcast is, but it'd be a great way to promote your site. And then before you know it, Greg Cook is on, and Mark Verstegen's group, Athletes Performance at the time, and Alan Cosgrove and Rachel Cosgrove of Results Fitness University. And so we started this, this whole collaboration.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast this week, where, as always, it's our mission to bring you some of the best, the brightest in the world of fitness, in the world of golf, in order to help you get stronger on the course, off the course, improve your lifestyle, and ultimately play a lot better golf. And so this week, we've got a very special guest. We have Anthony Renna from the Strength Coach Podcast, and now from ContinueFit.com. And Anthony is a pioneer in the world of podcasting. He had basically been podcasting before I even knew what a podcast was. And much like we do here at 18 Strong, where we try to find some of the greatest coaches and brains in the world of golf, Anthony did that with the fitness world and has really been a big inspiration for this show and what we're trying to do here as far as bring you some of the lessons from the greatest coaches in the world. And so the list of people that he has had on his show and has made partnerships with, Mike Boyle, Greg Cook, so many names that you're going to hear in this episode, it's been pretty amazing. And so we talk about a lot of the lessons that Anthony has learned from them, but also he started one of the earliest golf fitness locations in White Plains, New York, called 5 Iron Fitness. And so we talk about, how he works with his clients, how these lessons and how these conversations with some of these amazing coaches then affected what he did with his clients, and kind of what you can learn from the world of strength coaches and how to apply that to your own fitness routine. And what are the most important things for you to focus on? And not only does he have just the podcast, the Strength Coach Podcast, but he's got a whole suite of media, which is the Strength Coach TV channel and 2 other podcasts, as well as just StrengthCoach.com, which you'll hear all about, all the different things that he does. And he's got these all kind of under one umbrella now, which is called Continue, or ContinueFit.com. And you'll hear Anthony talk about that. It was a lot of fun catching up with him and hearing some of the stories from the old days, trying to get a whole podcast started and everything that it took as compared to, what it involves these days. So that was a lot of fun for me too. Before we jump into the interview, I just want to say a quick thanks to our sponsor for this episode, the PGA Tour mobile app, which again is my go-to resource for anything PGA Tour related, web.com related. It's been a lot of fun being able to keep up with everything that's going on with the money list and who's in the top 25, who's in the top 125, and especially with the FedEx Cup playoffs, the web.com playoffs, being able to see where everybody's placing, what the scores are shot by shot. If I can't watch it on TV, the PGA Tour app is definitely the way to go. So if you haven't loaded that into your phone, go do that, because you can sit and watch the PGA Tour live pretty much anywhere you are. So go to, whether it's Apple or Samsung or BlackBerry, whatever you have, they have the mobile app for it. So go check that out. All right, without further ado, here's my man, Anthony Renna from the Strength Coach Podcast. Anthony Renna, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, thanks for having me. Excited to be on the other end of the questions right now. Yeah. I might ask you a couple, though. You never know.
Oh, that's cool. we actually had, Jason Glass came on, hijacked the show a while back, and it was weird being on the other side, so I know how you feel. And it's cool to have you on. It's cool to finally actually meet you and see you, because, I've known about Strength Coach and the podcast and TV and all that stuff, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have too, as we've got a lot of fitness professionals and medical professionals that listen, so it's great to officially meet you face-to-face via the interwebs. So
yeah, absolutely. Cool. I know. Too bad we didn't get the chance in down in New Orleans in October. I know you were down there, but every time I looked over at the booth, there was nobody there actually at the time. But you had your booth.
That's right. We did a couple interviews there, but it was more about going down and making connections and seeing some people and listening to some stuff. So it was a cool experience. Well, like I said, I know a lot of people that are listening know some of your content, but for the folks that don't, give us a little background on you and kind of what started you in the fitness world, just kind of a brief synopsis, and then kind of transitioned over to StrengthCoach TV. And I know that obviously you had the golf fitness, 5-iron fitness in there as well. So give us a little breakdown.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't get into the fitness business till I was about 37, believe it or not. That was 13 years ago. I was in the bar and restaurant business, and I played hockey growing up. I grew up caddying at a local club. I actually, in my 20s, I would caddy for a local pro who, caddied in the US Open at Shinnecock in 95. We did all he was like a really good, he was one of those guys who always came in like top 25 at the National Club Pro Championship. So he always got a bye to go into the PGA Championship. And he's always been, qualifying for trying like US Open stuff. So that was a big thrill. 1995 was the Centennial US Open.
Wow.
But for me, I was still in the bar business at that time. And in 2002 or 3 or 4, somewhere in that neighborhood, I just decided to get certified. And I told my wife, I was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll learn how to work out better, right? I mean, I'm just going to do it because I was looking for a change. You get people drunk for 18 years, you get tired of it. So basically, I got certified and I just went nuts because I just loved it. I loved the educational piece. There's so much to learn. We're never going to know everything about the human body. So it's never ending. I just decided, my God, this is awesome. And I have a marketing degree, and I knew going into training that I would need some kind of a hook. Ideally, it would have been hockey. That's my sport, my number one. I love it. But I knew I live in Westchester County in New York. It's, St. Andrews Country Club was, arguably the first country club in America, right? Golf course in America. I'm right down the street from Wingfoot. I'm right down the street from Westchester Country Club. Two, very famous clubs, obviously. Siwanoy, the first PGA championship at Siwanoy, right? It's right down the street. Century Country Club, where I grew up caddying. Ben Hogan was the assistant pro there in 39 and 40. So there's so much history here. I knew it was a good kind of direction to go. Golfers, it's a great demographic. They have a lot of money. Plus, they're insane. I mean, even the ones that don't have a lot of money, they're crazy. Everything is golf. So when I got a job at Equinox, that's my first gig in 2003. I basically knew I'd gotten I don't even remember the name of the golf certification. I forget what it was because Titleist wasn't around yet. Or TPI wasn't around yet. So I got some golf certification, and I knew the game. I knew the language. I knew a bunch of golf pros from caddying. So I kind of went in that direction. And then when the summit came, I was like, oh my God, I got to go to this. It's going to be awesome. Plus all my people that I was already following, Mark Verstegen, Mike Boyle, Perform Better was sponsoring it. So it was just a natural thing. And I just kind of jumped into that and came home and basically, really just got so involved. And it started the Better Golf with Fitness podcast in 2007. That lasted only 22 episodes because then later that year, I started StrengthCoach podcast,
right? Because
it was just a bigger platform for me and I could reach a lot more people, and it just made a lot more sense to do that. And then the next year I opened up 5-Iron Fitness, which was really one of them. Greg Rose obviously had their place, but there wasn't a lot of places. Drive 495, which was, they had opened, but they certainly had plenty of other people other than golfers. So my facility and really just work with golfers for 90% was golfers, and really love my golfing guys. We just had so much fun. I had a putting green, and we'd have a class on Saturdays. We'd have contests and throw the money down, just like, doing the trash talking every Saturday. It was awesome. I mean, I really absolutely missed that piece of it because I sold the gym in December to focus more on the internet brand. That's something that I'm a little bit more passionate about. I can reach a lot more people.
Sure. So the whole StrengthCoach, StrengthCoach.com, StrengthCoach podcast, how did that whole relationship and how did that whole thing start? You mentioned you went to the summit. You saw, a bunch of these different guys that you were following. How did you end up then working with all of these different professionals and, basically becoming the hub of everything strength and conditioning.
Yeah, well, what happened was basically I had gotten a Mac in like 2005 just because I knew video was coming, right? I didn't know anything about it. And I saw on the Mac GarageBand. And my younger brother's a sound engineer, and I saw the word podcast, and I was like, Mike, can you help me with this? Learn this garage? Yeah, no problem. And so basically, I started listening to podcasts about podcasting, right? Dave Jackson, School of Podcasting, and a few other ones. And I just was like, oh man, this is awesome. This is cool. So I had a golf site called Golf Fitness Products at the time. And that was kind of like the direction I was going. And I just wanted to do it for that. And I wanted to get the word out there. Nobody was doing anything like that. And so I started doing it. And that's how I learned to podcast. But I saw an opportunity. Coach Boyle, Mike Boyle, he had a forum called michaelboyle.biz. And there was all these amazing, like, NHL, NFL, college strength coaches on there with obviously Coach Boyle. And the conversations were amazing. And I was just like a sponge. I was loving learning all this stuff, and the conversations were amazing. And Coach Boyle had an opportunity to get a site at the time called sportspecific.com. He was going to take it over. So he did. And the light went off for me. I said, I just saw the opportunity. I said, Mike, listen, I said, I know you don't know what a podcast is, but it'd be a great way to promote your site. And here's what the format's going to be. I'm going to talk to you for like 15 minutes about issues on the site, and then we'll get Perform Better on, and we'll ask about some of the equipment, and they'll be my sponsor, so you don't have to pay for it. I'll get them to pay for it, and then we'll get a strength coach on. And then before you know it, Gray Cook is on, and Mark Verstegen's group, Athletes Performance at the time, and Alan Cosgrove and Rachel Cosgrove of Results Fitness University. And so we started this, this whole collaboration. And what ended up from there was, because I was doing that and I helped build the site with Mike, he basically made me a partner at StrengthCoach.com, because I was doing a lot of the back end work just because I wanted to. You know what it was? I wanted to put the podcast on the site. So I asked Mike for access, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. We got to get this on the site.
Right. So
I did it. And then I started to kind of tweak around with the site. And every time Mike needed something, I did it for him. And basically he's like, yeah, you're my new partner. So that happened like 2011, 2012. And, just the podcast has grown so much, and not to be, but it was kind of, I'm still doing what I did back then. Really, I'm not that up to date with stuff. A lot of times I'm starting to finally, but I didn't really need to. I hate to be like that, but I had Mike Boyle, and I didn't have to promote it. I had Boyle and Verstegen's group and Cosgrove and Gray Cook and all these people. I didn't have to do anything. So people talk about search engine optimization. I was lucky. I didn't have to do anything, because at the time it was really the only place to go for that kind of information. Again, at the time people had to download it, put it on their iPod, and then listen to it. So they were hardcore listeners.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, podcasts, starting back then, I mean, even now, today, I still find that it's sometimes difficult to explain to somebody what a podcast is, how to go get it, how to find it on iTunes, or that you can listen via the website, all of those things. So to be thinking about that and doing that so long ago is pretty, commend to you, because so many people have trouble just figuring out that whole platform. So that's pretty cool. And the fact that, you have all these huge names, all these huge people that you're talking to. And for those that aren't in the fitness world, the names that Anthony's mentioning here are like the top names in the world of strength and conditioning and fitness. And it's really cool to see that you kind of started this platform, because that's exactly what we're doing here at 18 Strong. We're tapping into some of the greatest coaches around, the greatest people in the world of golf, and just kind of curating some incredible information. So that's awesome to see. What were some of the biggest influences that the podcast had on your own training, working with your golfers, working with your fitness people? What are some of the ways that you feel like the podcast made you grow as a trainer?
I think obviously talking to Mike Boyle who, if anybody doesn't know, the golf world might have, if you're just in the golf world, then you know the joint by joint, because I know Titleist talks a lot about the joint by joint. It was the foundation of some of their programming, which was kind of the concept was kind of developed by Mike Boyle and Gray Cook. They didn't really invent it, but just they popularized that approach. And being able to talk to Mike every other week, and then having Gray Cook come on the show, and then being able to kind of talk to him even off camera. Like, I remember years ago asking Gray, hey, what ankle mobility? If I don't have full range in my ankle, in my ankle, full dorsiflexion, I don't really need that for golf. So how can it affect my swing? Does it really matter? And so those are here's one of the top therapists in the world that I'm able to ask those questions to. And then having all of these guys come on from different sports, different types of jobs, physical therapists or coaches or mental coaches, whatever, was really good, because you have to remember, I think we get caught up, and especially golfers is get caught up in, and Charlie Weingroff would call it being too golfish, right?
Yep.
And you got to get over yourselves, people. I mean, you're not doing, you're not that important. And, I only say that because in a tragic situation, one time I thought I could have helped a little bit more. And this person said to me, they go, listen, sometimes we overestimate our importance in these situations. And it was very comforting. And I still use it to this day for everything. It's and that's what resonated with me with Titleist, was this whole idea of the hexagon of player improvement, this team approach, right? Multidisciplinary, you're just a piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. You better make sure your clubs are fit. You have to get the golf pro is, obviously there's shot making skills, and there's course management, and there's basic instruction, and there's the mental game. You're just a little piece of it. And so, and even with the gym, if you're not working on nutrition, and you're not getting them to sleep, and you're even working a less piece of what's going on. So, the podcast really shaped my idea that I, with programming mostly, that it didn't have to be so much about always, rotation, taking a golf, a dumbbell. And most people are away from that now. But back then, again, 10 years ago, it wasn't. It was people were still kind of trying to come up with these ways to increase rotation, like by taking a dumbbell and doing a turn or whatever. But that's really where the podcast helped me shape, was understanding that, it's not so much all the time about one thing. It's a holistic approach, and that's where I kind of always said, 5-Iron Fitness, our motto was improve your golf body, improve your golf game. That's what we're trying to do. We're looking at the demands of the sport and figuring out what somebody needs based on those demands, and from a global perspective. So that's really the biggest influence for me from the podcast, and being able to talk to all these amazing pros from every sport, and from all over the world.
Yeah, that was something that I thought was really cool about the Golf Fitness Summit this past year, was they branched out into so many different sports and other disciplines, and we were able to kind of see and learn and hear from guys like you talk to on a regular basis on what are they doing differently to increase rotation or power or those kinds of things. Being that you had one of the early on golf specific locations, what would you say, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, what were some of the big ways, or how has the whole game of golf kind of changed in regards to fitness from that point, the awareness of it? Was it hard for you to get, and I know you were in an area with a lot of golfers, but was it hard to get people to buy into the idea of golf and fitness? And how does that compare to what you see today?
Absolutely. And I'll throw all the golf pros under the bus. I'm not going to blame them completely, but, they were the hardest ones to buy into it, right? They really were. And I was at the Golf Fitness Summit with Paul Kenny, who's a local pro in my area. And we're like, look at this. We're at the World Golf Fitness Summit. Titleist is putting this on. Amazing presenters, amazing location. And there was 4 4 people from our section, like this amazing section, this historic section, right? 4, like two fitness people and 2 golf pros. 2 golf pros. Come on. I mean, and it's 2016. And so imagine 2006, 2007, 2008. And one of my golf pro friends told me, his name is Mike Diffley at a Pelham Country Club. Mike was saying, listen, Ann, he was my best refer. He said, Ann, here's the thing. I got John over here on the left. He comes to me once a month. He's been here for 6 years. He spends $300 a month like clockwork. He takes a lesson. He buys a shirt for a friend. The rest he spends on balls and gloves. I'm not sending him to you. Now, Bob over here, he's a finance guy. He's got more money than God. He takes 20 lessons. I don't care. I'm sending him to you. That's who you're going to get. But to me, that was the wrong attitude. Like, he was not, I think if he would have sent the first guy and he got better, he's going to just be like, wow, I'm getting better. Mm-hmm. This is awesome. I'm going to spend more money. So it took those golf pros a long time. They saw us more as competition. And I don't care what any golf pro says. That's what they were. They saw us as competition, because think about it. They have their own business. And in their defense, at the time, most of them had to run a pro shop, right? They had to manage a staff. They have lessons on their own. They want people to spend money at their place. They were dealing with a bad economy, 2008, 2009, 2010, right? So there's all these other factors there. And, they're not going to always think of me, but there certainly were some pros that were trying to get people over here. But, I really feel like they looked at us like competition. And I'll tell you what, another example of how I know that's true is, how many golf pros go to level 1 and they come back and then they start a fitness program at their country club, so that's just bullshit. Like the first thing Greg Rose is telling you on day 1, build your team. In order to get certified, you have to collaborate with somebody. In order to be level 2, you have to collaborate with, a medical and a golf pro, so it's just, people, they're still doing it. They're still going there and they're coming home like, hey man, we got a boot camp, the golf fitness boot camp, and they're running it. So there still is that mentality. And I'll tell you right now, I started caddying in 1979. I was 12 years old. Century Country Club, the golf pro was Nelson Long. Okay. You know who the golf pro is there right now? Nelson Long. He's such a great job. When I was a kid, I used to caddy for Alan Greenspan. I used to caddy for Sanford Weil. There was a crazy, Leonard Goldson was the head of ABC. These people were it was amazing people. The job was incredible. So, Nelson is still there. You think he's going to try to recommend, people come on over to me to go, get a workout in? Nah, they're not doing it.
I want to jump in here real quick with a thanks to our featured sponsor of today's episode, which once again is Super Speed Golf. It's the overspeed training system that I've been using for years and is definitely the number one tool that I've implemented into the training system that I use with my clients, with myself, in order to gain more speed, gain more distance. And who doesn't want to hit a ball further off the tee box? I mean, they've got hundreds and hundreds of tour players using these things. They've got thousands of golfers, if not tens of thousands of golfers around the world using these super speed golf clubs to gain more distance and simply improve their balance, improve their tempo. It is such a great tool. So if you haven't checked out the Super Speed Golf system, go to superspeedgolf.com and be sure to use the code 18STRONG. All right, let's get back to Anthony. Yeah, I think, you mentioned the whole team approach, and for everybody listening, especially all the golfers listening out there, it is so important to look at the different pieces that you have. And that's something that I saw at the Fitness Summit too, is when you saw some of these coaches up there, like a Mark Blackburn, and you saw how detailed his coaching program is and everything that goes into him helping his players get better. He's got all those different pieces where he consults with the different professionals. And I think that that's so important, that one person's not going to help you fix everything. And that doesn't mean that you have to go have this medical staff and team and everything and be like a Floyd Mayweather where you've got a whole entourage of people. But know, that there are different ways that you can kind of fix different things. And if your body's not moving well, maybe you should look into having a fitness guy or just get yourself checked out. If there's something with your swing, you want to work on something in your game, you got to find a golf pro. If there's something medically wrong, that you have pain, you got to find something like that too. So I think you mentioning that whole team approach is a big part of it. What are some of the bigger mistakes that you see golfers make in the gym, or, when they're kind of taking the reins their own on their fitness programs, or people that came to you for the first time, what were some of the biggest issues that you saw?
I think not truly, the team approach would be the best way. Like, always go to a golf pro first. I know I just threw them under the bus, but there's so many great ones out there that do believe in this process, right? But going to a golf pro first, understanding what are the demands of the sport. So if we just looked at the demands of the sport, we know from the joint by joint even that we need good ankle mobility. We need good hip mobility. We need good hip stability or glute strength, right? We need good core stability, good thoracic mobility, good shoulder flexibility, good grip strength, good wrist flexibility, right? So right from there, now we know we have to walk 18 holes. See, I'm getting old. I only walk 9 holes.
Hey, at least you walk. Most of us ride.
So, we have to walk. We have to be out there. That's the swing. The average golf pro is like 112 or 14 miles an hour for a swing, right? Maybe the average person is in between the 90s and 100s, but it's still a super fast swing. We have to be able to control those forces. They just look at some of the things, the demands in the sport. And I think that's what people didn't do, really kind of coming in. They would think, oh, I'm going to get on the treadmill for an hour, or I'm just going to lift some, do some upper body exercises, or I'm going to take a dumbbell and do some rotation. They focused on rotation too much. I'm not saying rotation isn't important, but, not looking at the demands of the sport. It's pretty simple. You look at those demands of the sport, and then you just go to somebody, or you can just say Google thoracic mobility, and you'll get some exercises. You might not get some good ones, but you can, you'll find some good people out there. Good hip mobility, find out some good hip mobility. So you don't always need to go to a trainer. Obviously it's best. That would be, first level is like going and doing some research on your own. Second level is go to a personal trainer. Just say, listen, I know I need hip mobility. I know I need thoracic mobility and core stability. Can you help me? Best level would be go to a golf fitness pro, go to TPI, go to look for one in your area. And even better is somebody that's working golf fitness with a golf pro. So that's like the highest level for me. But I think this thing, looking at the demands of the sport and just like, is CrossFit good for golf? Is P90X good for golf? They're good for getting in shape, obviously, and people have gotten in shape, but they're not good for golf. That's the bottom line. You need to work on those things that are important for a golfer. So, they're not that hard to find out.
So a question that I get a lot from people listening, or even just, buddies on a golf trip or something is, where do I start? I'm a busy dude. I've got family. I've got kids. I've got a job. What would you say to the guy that has all those things on his plate, still wants to play maybe a round of golf a week? How much time should he really squeeze in for the gym, and what would you concentrate on if you had just a few workouts that you were giving them?
I mean, for me, for the most part, I always think of getting a really good, I always start from the ground up. So get in a really good, warm up in terms of, doing some good, foam roll, and then with some bridging and plank, quadruped, kind of, I'm not going to go too deep with like a Greg Matrix 4x4 here, but like, understanding, you're on your back and then you turn over and then you get on your hands and knees and then you start to stand up, move in that direction slowly for somebody who isn't, always working out, and then try to get a total body workout in, because the demands of golf for the most part are the demands of life. Because everybody could use some more hip mobility and thoracic mobility and core stability, right? Those are all things that we could all use. But even if you just had a half hour to kind of get in a good, get some good hip stretches in, some good thoracic mobility stretches in, some good ankle mobility, and then work a total body, push, pull, and then a lower body exercise, maybe with a core. Throw in some intervals. I always love, we're a power sport. I think people forget that. And then they're like, well, I'm going to go on the treadmill or the elliptical because I have to walk 18 holes. But really, you know what? Through the workouts, you're going to get that endurance for the most part, obviously, unless you don't have any kind of endurance or you don't do anything. But for me, it was like, look, get your total body workout in and do some quick intervals. I love the Airdyne bike, or any bike really, some quick 5 seconds on, 15 seconds off, times 3 or 4. Develop that power, those short bursts of power. That's what we do as golf. We exhibit this short burst of power, we walk for 10 minutes. We exhibit a short burst of power, we walk for another 5, right? So that's where in the direction, like it doesn't have to be long. More importantly, it has to be consistent.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but given the fact that you've spoken with so many of these great coaches, I've had a chance to interview a lot of the great coaches that have also been on your show. And although all these guys and girls, they're some of the most brilliant minds out there, it seems like they all have kind of similar common threads of, the stuff that you're talking about. Because when I hear you talking and what you just kind of explained and recommended is almost verbatim what I tend to tell people on a regular basis, that it's not all about golf. It's not all about rotation. It's about all these basic things. Do you find that there is kind of that common thread amongst a lot of these people, and that boiling it down to more of a simple platform is really ultimately what it's all about?
Yeah, what's funny is when you had sent me kind of like, look, this is the general overview of what we're going to talk about, and you would ask, kind of what are some of the things that maybe you learned from over the years podcasting with some of these great coaches. That probably is the number one thing, that the more experience they get, the more that they end up in this beginner's mind type of idea. The more experienced they are, the less choices they have. In the beginning, you're like using all kinds of BOSU and balance beams and all kinds of crap and a million exercises. And you're so worried about impressing people, but with new thing and keeping them busy, really it's you that's getting bored, not them. But keeping it simple is really the one thing that I think for me over time working or talking with all of these people. And you're right, we agree on so much more in this industry than we do. I mean, you see all the fighting, or we do in our industry, like the different cliques, etc. And people get so crazy and argue. It's like half the crap we're arguing about, no, we don't even get to in the gym with our clients, so right? True. There's so much and that's my problem with the golf world, to be honest with you, is that we've made it so complicated. And I'm not saying like 3D isn't great or all these platforms, all these, bounce, not the force plates, all good, right? But really it's really good for that small percentage of elite golfers. The average golfer doesn't need that stuff. Can they get better? Maybe a little bit faster? Maybe. Sometimes it just confuses them. But I think we've made this thing so ridiculously confusing with all this crap and trying to be everything for everybody that I just feel like we've done a disservice to growing this part of it. And the only reason why this industry is as big as it is, in my opinion, is because of the way the guys look on the tour. It's obvious now. Mm-hmm. Look who's winning. The guys are doing it. That's the only reason why this thing is coming around, because to me, the average person is looking at what's happening out there. Now they're going to their golf pro, and the golf pro has no choice but to kind of play along. Even if like 6, 7, 8 years ago, they didn't really want to do it, but they know they got to do it now because that's what people are talking about.
Yeah. I think that golfer now is almost insisting, like, who should I go to? And if that golf pro isn't on board, then maybe they don't have that golfer anymore. And to speak to the point of making things so complicated and all the the different gadgets and things that we have. I mean, you go to the PGA show and you just look at everything down there. It's overwhelming. I mean, all the different simulators and different apps and things like that. It's incredible. And I don't know who has the time to search out and figure out what's the best one and how to use them all and all that stuff. It really is, to your point, it's gotten so crazy, confusing, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what Dave Phillips is good for. He's really good at all the deciphering all the technology, and then you just kind of follow his lead.
Yeah, just go to Dave because he's got the best and the best toys, the most expensive toys, and what works best. So, with all of your interviews, are there any guests that kind of stick out as some of the most exciting or most entertaining, I would say? I'm Boyle and Cook. I'm just taking off the table here. Okay, yeah. Mike Boyle, great cook. I'm not. Yeah. Nick Winkleman. I always enjoy having him on number one. Believe it or not,
who's not in the fitness industry. I interviewed Daniel Coyle when the Talent Code, was out. And that was one of my most favorite interviews. Christopher McDougall, before Born to Run got popular, I had interviewed him because Gray Cook had told me, you got to read this book. And that was such a fascinating time, like when everybody was talking about barefoot running and all that stuff. Like, it was before it, but this guy just had like this great, amazing story. Al Vermeil have you had Al on the show?
No, not yet. I need to get Al on.
Oh my God. This is a guy, this guy's a legend. He has 9 rings. He was there for the Chicago Bulls, and I think he was at San Francisco for the NFL. He's the only guy that has rings in 2 leagues, right? Here's a guy, we schedule an interview for a Saturday. Now it's 5:00 and I'm nervous, right? I'm just kind of nervous. So I'm interviewing him and I'm like trying to be super prepared. We go on for 40 minutes and 45 minutes. And he calls me back at 7:00, 2 hours later on a Saturday night. And I'm like, Alvin, what? I got to answer.
Yeah, right.
And so he's like, Anthony, I just don't feel like I gave good enough answers and I need to do more. I want to do it over. And I'm like, Al, that was really good. We'll do another one, but we don't need to discard that one. So we got on the phone 2 days later. And that's why if you look way back, I had Al Vermeil part 1 and part 2.
That's awesome. Fast
forward, a couple years later, I had him back on the show. Same exact thing happened. The guy lives and breathes it. And you have to it's nerve-wracking talking to him because he's so smart and he has so much experience that you're basically like, oh my God, you're trying to write notes down while you're talking, you're trying to listen and then write notes down so you can ask questions. It's incredible. But he's the epitome of what the ultimate strength coach to me is. And Stuart McGill is another one that I love talking to. Greg Rose is not just because we're on the golf thing. To me, is probably one of the most articulate, smartest guys that really have come along in all of this stuff.
Yeah, I got to meet Al at the TPI level 2, and it just amazed me. He was sitting there taking notes during the whole thing. I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. He's one of the most highly decorated strength coaches, and he's sitting there taking notes. Just as excited to learn that day as any of us were. Just phenomenal. And
amazing.
Just cool to see. All right, man. So I want you to tell us everything that's going on now, because I know you're kind of shifting things around. You've got a whole new website coming out. I want to give the audience the home base of Anthony Renna now. So tell us about Continue.
Sure. Continue is located at continuefit.com. And it's basically where it's my hub. It's where I'm putting everything. I have 3 podcasts, a Strength Coach podcast, which will be 10 years old in November. And then I started a couple last year, one called Stop and Give Me 20, which is 20 minutes with some of the world's top fitness professionals. And basically, I never really get to the story on the Strength Coach podcast because I don't have the time, because I have different segments. So I wanted to reach out to all these people who have these great stories and really just spend that time on the story. So it's been a lot of fun. That one is I ask the same questions to everybody, but there's all the answers are so different. So it's amazing. It's been really fun. And then what I noticed in our industry too is everybody reads so many books. So I started a podcast called Tell Me About That Book. And it's me interviewing fitness professionals who have read some of the best books in mindset, business, fitness, or motivation. So I started that, and that's going to be really for charity. And the charity is Inner City Weightlifting, which is a company in Boston that works with inner city youth and tries to get gang members and stop some violence. Oh, wow. They teach them. Yeah, it's a really cool program. I did a fundraiser for them on Strength Coach podcast at one point, and we created a lot of awareness. So it kind of stuck in my heart that I wanted to keep helping them and keep raising awareness because they're doing such amazing things. So there's those 3, and then there's the Strength Coach TV, which is me going to facilities and checking out the different facilities all over the country. And And right now, next one's going to be in Detroit. I went to USA Hockey to see their facility, so that was a lot of fun. And StrengthCoach.com, obviously. So I'll kind of have everything really under one umbrella at ContinueFit.com and be able to bring people those resources and all under one umbrella.
Awesome. And you said that you have sold the gym, so you're still doing a little bit of training here and there, but the main focus is the brand. So 5 Iron Fitness, is that still alive? Is that still kicking?
Yes, it is. It's still alive. I'm going to kind of, Caitlin Sharpless and I, she's been on your show, has she, or no?
Yeah, Caitlin, okay. She's awesome. She's done a bunch of videos for 18 Strong. She's great.
Yeah. So we kind of partnered. We're going to do like a couple products kind of through exercise.com, just some programs through that. And then for anybody that wanted to go a little bit deeper, so those would be kind of canned programs. And what we're going to try to focus on is really keeping it simple, getting away from this idea of like allowing people not to feel like, wow, this is overwhelming. We're doing that. And then for anybody that wanted to go a little bit deeper, I have I'm going to be doing online training, which I'm already in beta testing because I actually sold my gym, but I rent from the kid that I sold it to. I'm in the same building, and I still train every Wednesday in the mornings just to kind of stay in touch with my guys and keep them up to date. But they just use the app. They don't even really need me anymore. I just coach them.
I really just having some coffee and chatting.
Yeah, that's it. That's
awesome, man.
But yes, I kept that alive.
All right, brother. I got a couple wrap-up questions for you here that I think you know are coming.
All right, let's do it.
All right, Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore?
Oh, Caddyshack by far. I mean, I was in the caddy yard when that came out. I can identify. I could tell you every the members. I won't say their names, but the members at Century Country Club for the Chevy Chase character, the Caddy Master, the Havoc Camps were an old couple called the Jacobs. I'm telling you their name. It was so much. We had a guy that was like Chevy Chase, played all by himself all the time, richer than all of us combined listening to this show right now, and he always took care of the caddies, donated clubs at every caddy picnic, but Caddyshack by far.
Awesome. If you had a chance to play 18 holes of golf with any one person, past, present, or future, who would it be, where would you go, and why would you pick that person?
All right. I got to change this question. Sorry, man. We're doing a Wednesday Pro-Am, and I'm playing with Tiger because I gotta ask him what the hell he was thinking. So I definitely, and I wouldn't have had a business if it wasn't for Tiger. And my foursome, the other three are going to be Dennis Potvin. He was the captain of the New York Islanders in the 80s. When I was there to see all the Stanley Cups, he's got to be out there. Little Walter, who's a blues harmonica player from the 50s for Chicago Blues Harmonica. That's my music. Pete Hamill, one of my favorite writers. He writes all about New York. He wrote the book Drinking Life and a book called Forever and Why Sinatra Matters. He's got to be out there to document this Wednesday Pro-Am. So that's what we're doing. We're playing at Century. I know I could pick a lot of places, but Century just has a place in my heart. There's so much history there, and it's not too hard, but it's hard enough. And I think it would be fun to be out there with those guys.
I love it. Great answer. And I'm always open to an audible there. That's awesome.
All right.
If golf was like baseball and you got to pick a song walking up to the tee box, what's your song?
I gotta apologize to Susan Tedeschi and the Tedeschi Trucks Band, my favorite all-time band. I just absolutely, if I could follow them, I would. But I'd have to go to when I was younger. My favorite bands were like Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. So I'm going to kind of combine it. I'm going with Hunger Strike by Temple of the Dog.
Oh, man. What a great pick. That might be playing in the gym right now over here at Empire Fitness Academy. Yeah, nice. That might be. Awesome. All right. Any last piece of advice for the 18 Strong community before we let you go today?
It's funny because on Stop and Give Me 20, I have a letter to your younger self, and I always think about it, and it changes all the time because I don't have to answer it. But one thing is, I think what I've seen with a lot of people, and I would tell myself this, is you're better than you think you are. I think a lot of us kind of we get so bogged down with kind of judging ourselves. And we hold ourselves back because of those self-limiting beliefs. So just remember that you're better than you think you are. Just do what you got to do. Don't be afraid. Go after it.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. You've been a huge inspiration to me personally, but I know a lot of the fitness professionals listening, and you provide so much great content for all of us to go and learn. So just want to thank you for your contribution there. And I'm so happy to see that you're putting it all under one umbrella. It's going to be much easier for all of us to find and pay attention to. But thanks for the time today, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been fun kind of being on the other side and kind of, yelling about the golf pros and talking about some of the things that I've learned over the time. So thanks for doing this, Jeff.
You got it, man. We'll talk very soon. All right. Thanks for joining us this week on the 18 Strong podcast. If you want any more information on Anthony, just go to 18strong.com/Anthony-Renna, or just look up episode number 155 and you will catch the links to everything we talked about in this show. Also, be sure to go check out his new website. It looks great. It's called ContinueFit.com, and that's basically the umbrella that hosts everything that he has: the Strength Coach podcast, Stop and Give Me 20, the Tell Me About That Book podcast, as well as Strength Coach TV, and then also just links to StrengthCoach.com and all the great resources that he has. If you're a fitness professional, medical professional, or you're in the industry whatsoever, you have to go check out Anthony's content. He is such a great resource. He's got so much information from all of these great coaches around the world. And he goes into, especially on Strength Coach TV, I know he goes to these different facilities. He talks to them about the business and how they set up their business, how they grew as a company, and all of the different ins and outs of not just what they do with their training clients, but also how they run their businesses too. So definitely a great resource there. All right. I want to thank again our sponsors for today's show, the PGA Tour mobile app, as well as Super Speed Golf. Be sure to go check those out. And as always, we'd love to have you come over to the Facebook group, the 18 Strong Movement, and catch up with you there. We answer questions. We just have conversations about different topics. We post pictures of us playing golf, and we love to see you guys and what you're doing on your weekends and how you're getting in the gym and training, getting out and enjoying the golf, because that's what this whole thing's all about. So be sure to catch up next week where we have another great guest. Train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.